Someone called Nathan Wren is in a row about men who identify as birds. There we go.
Yes. So, has fear of being called transphobic led BBC to allow militant pro-trans group to censor reporting? Now, this is a very good article. It's in the Mail. It's quite long and comprehensive. And essentially what it proves is, through a bunch of different examples, is how the Pride organisation within the BBC has become very powerful. It's an LGBTQI plus organisation, and how they have essentially censored balance within this debate of gender ideology.
So, sorry, they're called BBC Pride, right, but it's not Pride like Pride marches.
It's an in-house BBC organisation,
Yeah.
and how powerful they are. And when they go through some of these examples and what they've done to damage impartial reporting, and I would argue that one of the reasons that GB News exists is as a countenance to this, so you can actually hear about this stuff that you weren't getting from the BBC or any other media institutions. And so some of these examples here are crazy about how the influence that they actually sort of went into, where they, for example, they put through an article about how there's something called the cotton ceiling, which is about how lesbians were literally being coerced into having sex with people, with men, biological men with willies, essentially, who called themselves lesbian, and if they didn't, they were being told they were a bigot. And how the in-house Pride organisation, how they tried to basically get this article shut down, then how they unbelievably got to change, they changed the word of a victim of sexual abuse. They changed her words. She was talking about he, them, and then they changed it a he, and they changed it a they. You would never do that. So it just shows the power of this BBC Pride, and how a lot of other journalists are coming through and saying we don't feel safe that we can actually report or talk about any of this stuff because the power within the BBC of this group.
I mean, I know it has been going on for some time, certainly, as you say, as long as this channel's been going, all of this programme has been going there. There was a suggestion that Stonewall as an organisation had an extraordinary amount of power, and I assume that there to some extent there's a kind of pipeline between them and this BBC Pride thing. What do you think, Nick? I mean, I can't imagine you're going to deviate.
It's the woke hydra, I'm calling it now. You cut off the head of Stonewall and then BBC Pride pops up. And it's this phenomenon of a small minority dictating to everyone. You have many individuals within an organisation who won't agree with this stuff, but as it says in the article, they feel bullied, they feel they can't speak out, and because they're not as ideologically driven as the mad people who are enforcing this stuff. They're just normal people who are saying, this is all a bit off, I'm not sure if I should say anything, and you're up against ideologues who are incredibly driven. And then, then it's there. Someone said something interesting to me today about the one reason politicians have gone so woke, certain conservative politicians doing woke virtue signaling, is they're worried once they leave politics, they need a job. And so, once you have these BBC Pride and whoever it is running all these institutions, you have to then sort of, placate them.
And so you just have to blame the bosses here at the BBC, who are essentially just a small vocal minority. They've bowed down to us, and the cowardice. They also talk about this. There's one more thing. There was this big article about this trans weightlifter from New Zealand, Laurel Hubbard. And within the article, they basically said, there's no difference between men and women biologically in terms of strength. We can use our eyes, and this is coming from our state broadcaster.
Tim Davey.